Hello. Now, prior to World War II, German panzer troops had a protective form of headgear. They had a rubber skull cap over which a fake beret was worn. You may have seen them in the 1930s photos in the Panzer ones, etc. The beret they wear in the photographs is actually a fake beret. It's a rubber skull cap with a fake beret on top of it. After World War II, when the West German Armoured Division was formed, they decided to go back to tradition and make a then modern version of the pre-war German protective headgear for tank troops. And out comes this one in the late 50s. And what it is, it's a fibre skull cap or a plastic skull cap over which is a fake heavy wool beret. The beret in this instance was never worn on its own as a single item. It was always worn in conjunction with the skull cap. The beret isn't permanently fixed to the skull cap. The skull cap has this thick rubber edge to it, and the edge of the beret kind of pushes in and clips into the edge of the rubber protective bit on the edge. So the beret, if we look at it, it's just push fitted into the side. So if we take it off, that's the actual helmet itself. It's a hard fibre cum plastic construction with air vents. It's got this padded section around there. It's got your typical West German label inside, which tells us that it was made in January of 1963, 163. And over the top of it goes this beret that isn't a beret. It's got the West German military badge on it. It only ever had this badge on it. It never had any other badge on it. And that's the way the badge is fitted. And it merely just pulls over the top, and the edge just, it's going to be a nightmare to do it with one hand, but this braided edge just pushes under the actual rubber edge, so it stays on. And this was used by German tank troops, and it's strange they didn't use the previous West German made helmet for American tank troops, which it would have offered better protection, which was in the last video, I think. So why they didn't use that, I don't know, but they opted for this post-war version of the old 1930s protective headgear, now becoming its own standalone, very rare collector's item. So this was used from the late 50s through to 1971. And what happened in 1971 was the West German Armed Forces finally adopted the beret as a form of headgear for all its arms and services. And the panzer troops were no different. They also introduced a whole new range of beret badges. The panzer troop beret that replaced this in 1971 was the standard black one, and it has the panzer troops leopard tank on it. A whole range of these badges came out, and even to this day they're still making new badges. The badges that have this lithographed tin West German badge on are post 1976. Pre 1976 they don't have the badge on it. 4 prongs on the back, simple pressed metal badge. One time these were cheap as chips. Dealers used to buy the berets, strip the badges off them and sell the badges for like 70 pence each. Now they retail at about £14 a piece in some instances. The hardest one to get is the actual armoured troops beret. For some reason, these are the most expensive of the West German berets to buy. This particular one was made in 1994. So we'll put this beret on our friend here. It's not going to fit properly, but it will serve as an example. So, right, he's got the beret on in a fashion so you can see it. Now, when the Germany reunified after the fall of the Berlin Wall, the West German military still existed. The East German military is the one that got totally disbanded. So today, the unified German military is still the old West German military, and they still retain these badges. In fact, since reunification, new regiments have been formed within the new German army, and they've had some new badges made in the same pattern for use on the berets. And, you know, like, for example, I have some here. Now, what I said about the new pattern and the old pattern badges, that one, see, that one there is Jägertruppen. Infantry Jägertruppen, you see. That's the early pattern badge. That's the late pattern badge with the flag. So you've got Jägertruppen, 4 prongs on the back. And again, this will be worn with its own coloured beret. So you've got Jägertruppen. One of the newest badges they have, I think it's 1990 odd, is this Commando Specialist Marine. So that will be German Marine Commando. That's one of the newer badges. And another new badge. This is the Marine Protection Unit. Again, a 1990s onwards badge. Then you would have all the pattern badges, like this is Panzeraufklärer armoured troops. And then, well, you've seen one, Panzertruppen, tank troops. One of the oldest units in the German military, and one of the first ones to be formed when West Germany was looking for a military, the military police. That's one of the oldest units in the German military, and it was the first one to be formed after World War II was over and West Germany was forming regiments again. That's Feldjäger military police. Then you have, based on a traditional design, the Fallschirmjäger. And then you have an armoured personnel carrier cross guns. These are Panzerjäger troops, tank troops or armoured infantry. And then that's the army medic. Then we have another new badge from the 1990s into the 2000s. This is the Cyber and Information Technology Division. Deal with cybercrime. So that's practically a brand new badge over the past couple of years. And again, it's done in the traditional form with the West German badge underneath it. And 4 prongs. So that's one of the newer badges to be introduced. Then we have German Ordnance Supply Troops. And they were all introduced for whichever coloured beret that the particular unit had. Now, this one is an eagle, but it's got lightning strikes behind it. So this one is the 'n, which is 'n, 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 Airborne Special Forces, something like that. Then we have the mechanical engineers. And then, not a beret badge, this is a uniform service dress hat badge, which you're all familiar with. That's the West German Army. It's for the peak cap, not the beret. And there'll be a Luftwaffe one as well. But that's the peak cap badge. And you all know what that is. So it's not related to this beret, but I thought I'd show it anyway. And then we'd have this one. Wings and 2 crossed rifles. That's Air Force security. And then crossed cannon. This will be the field artillery. And then, where's it at? It's going to call me a liar. Yep. Where I showed you this Fallschirmjäger badge, you notice it's got the West German badge on. That's post 1976. And that one there is the older pre-1976. So post 76, pre 76, without the badge on it. So they make an interesting collection, but they're very, very expensive. Now, when I was a kid, like I said, these were between 50p and 75p each because dealers didn't rate them. I mean, dealers bought the berets as surplus with the badges already attached, and they just rip the badges off and just sell them for extra pocket money, as it were. The dealer's money was in the berets. And for some weird reason, like I said, the most expensive of all the West German berets is the Panzer Troop one. That'd be like 45 quid. Whereas all the other berets, for some reason, you know, you get green ones, red ones, military police, etc., etc. All the other West German berets are like £3 and £5 each. Nobody wants them. But the black Panzer beret, £45 for some reason. Don't know why, but there it is. So yeah, so that's the West German Panzer Troops. The beret and the hat that came out before it, which is now very rare, which is the Panzer Troops padded crash helmet, which was based on the pre-World War II German design. Let me see if I can grab a picture of the wartime design. We'll have a look in this publication. Just bear with me. You just look at that going round like a merry-go-round, and we'll see if we can find an example of the type. Yeah, so that in the 1950s and 60s is based on one of those. I want to see if we can find another pic. There's another pic. So it was based on a traditional design. So why they didn't adopt the American type one that they made for American troops, I don't know. It would have been a far better viable helmet. But yeah, anyway, they went for that one. Declared it surplus in 71 when they went over to the beret. Now, it's on standalone collector's items. Sometimes you see the beret separately for sale on internet websites, but they're not really worth buying unless you have the protective headgear that it goes with. So this setup complete now. Once upon a time, it was just surplus junk, like a lot of stuff. Now, it's its own collector's piece. Getting incredibly hard to find. Bye for now.